Good morning from Mount Fuji. I'm back here again, however this time I'm not with my girlfriend. I am with Ulysses, Aaron and Faisal, who are over there, and they're now laughing at me because I'm talking to myself, talking to a camera technically. Anyway, in this video we're going to talk about my 5 photography breakthroughs. So those were moments where something clicked, something made sense, and it made me understand photography a bit more. And those are the key, let's just say, inflection points where I would say were the most transformative for me. Well, we didn't get very far, and here's the first shot. Got the mountain in the back, got the telegraph poles, got the old buildings, and then you've also got some clouds on the mountain as well. Well, this is quite cool with that car coming through. Hopefully it's still in focus. Shooting this at f11 in aperture priority, but obviously the lens is not communicating with the camera. However, it still works. I think f11 got the job done here. The first major breakthrough was understanding light, specifically how light impacts the photo in terms of what angle it's coming from, where the camera is, where you are, where the subject is, and what type of light it is as well. And that breakthrough came when I was looking through my work, and I found that some photos had this extra depth to them. They looked more cinematic. They looked like the subject is kind of popping out of the image, and overall it was just a more pleasing result. And as I started to study my work, I found that the images that I liked the most were actually either backlit or side lit. Now, if you've watched this channel, you would have heard me bang on about this many times. However, that breakthrough was either backlighting or side lighting my subjects. So in other words, if you're shooting something, let's say in front of you, the source of light is coming from either the side or the back of the subject. What that's doing is it's adding shading and depth and texture by wrapping around the subject before going into the camera, as opposed to shooting it flat, so the light source is behind you, which gives a more 2D type of image. And if you watch cinema, let's say Joker or any cinematic films, you'll probably find that a lot of the breathtaking scenes are either backlit or side lit. And this applies to whether you're shooting in the morning, at lunchtime, sunset, or at night. This is again one of these scenes. I'm not quite sure why I like it. Maybe it's a combination of red and the texture and the whole rustic feel. It's probably the red, as Ulysses just said, but no, I like this little scene. Nothing particularly too exciting about it, but it's just one of these scenes or pictures that whenever I come across, I need to take a photo of this. The next breakthrough comes in the form of visual weight. So when we first learn about composition, we learn about the rule of thirds, leading lines, framing, and all of that good stuff. It's still relevant, it still applies, I still use it. There's a very loud bird, hopefully you can hear me. However, visual weight goes a bit deeper into composition, and it's a theory where different elements in your frame have a different weight. Now, I made a whole video about it, so I'll be quick with this one here. Basically, if let's say you have a dark negative space, that will hold a certain amount of weight. If you have a highlight, that will hold a higher weight. If you have a very bright, very vibrant part of the image, that will have a different weight. And when you're composing, what you're trying to do is balance all of these different elements so that the image feels balanced. It's not leaning to the right, to the left, to the bottom, to the top. Instead, all of the elements are balancing each other out. So for example, if you have a very bright sky, then you ought to have a larger shadow area to balance that out. So your attention isn't just going on the sky and the shadow at the bottom of the image is pulling you back a little bit. Equally, if you have a very bright patch of color on the left, in theory you should have something else on the right of the image to bring your attention back and to balance everything out. Because if you don't have that, what might happen is that you'll immediately look at the left side of the image and the image becomes, let's say, left heavy and overall doesn't feel right. That's balance. Now, this I really like. I love the long grass that's slightly overgrown. Those two buildings with the light hitting them, the little telegraph pole, the mountains in the back, the clouds. I don't know, it's just a very nice scene. I'm not sure if I'm going to shoot it at wide or tight, so I'll do both. But yeah, I really like the simple scenes like that. I don't know, maybe I've mentioned it before, but I find as I'm getting older, as I'm getting more into photography, I'm enjoying these types of places so much more than, I don't know, a packed out city at night with rain. I'm enjoying the peace, I'm enjoying finding nice photos or something that's pleasing to the eye within a simple location like this. And I'm no longer going for powerful stories or anything like that. I don't know, I just found myself yawning for simple photos, nice colors, nice light, and this kind of a location. And don't get me wrong, I still take all the cliche shots by all means, but I don't know, something that I need to think about more as to why it's happening and what that might mean.
If you're finding this video useful and wish to support the channel, then one of the best ways to do so is to check out my little photography book. This book consists of everything I know about photography and everything I've learned over the last decade put into a concise and easy to understand format. Think of this as a photography course without the cost. It covers psychology, mistakes, lessons learned, lighting, composition, color, editing, workflow, and so much more. For more information, see the links in the description, and thank you for your support.
I hope you can hear me over the shouting, but I like how the guy in the white suit kind of stands out, his hands behind, and his suit matches the white of these things. And then those other two, the other guys there, and they're kind of having a chat. And the light is very good, the framing is good. I'm shooting this at 40mm, but most likely I might just crop it in a little bit. The third breakthrough came in the form of minimalism in terms of the gear that I'm bringing with me, specifically sticking to one prime, one body on a strap, and that's it. Now, okay, today I have two primes with me. However, in most cases, some of the most chill days out shooting, we're just going out with a prime and a body. And the reason for that is because when you have like 4 or 5 different lenses, I'm going to try not to laugh because Faisal's laughing at me. When you have when you have 4 or 5 different lenses, like you're spending most of your time trying to figure out which lens to use. Oh shit, I should be using a wide angle here. Or crap, now I've got the wide angle, actually that looks better at 50mm or 90mm or whatever. And of course, if you're going somewhere once and that's it, then yeah, by all means bring different lenses to cover different things. But if you're out just enjoying photography and you want to focus on photography rather than just capturing everything in front of you, honestly just bring one prime and get comfortable with that one prime. As a matter of fact, once I stop traveling so much, I want to do a bunch of challenges where for let's say a month or two, I'm only shooting with one particular prime, be it a 35, a 50 or whatever. And I do think that has many benefits for your photography and just for improving. Now let me quickly mention how I'm shooting in manual focus with this old manual lens. So first and foremost, I'll set it to around f11. f8 works as well. I find that on a really sunny day like this, f11's plenty, unless obviously I want the background to be blurred out, then I'll have to go into electronic shutter to obviously match the shutter speed. Anyway, camera is an aperture priority. Even though there is no direct contact between the lens and the camera, it still does a very good job at metering. In terms of focusing, of course, manual focus, so I am using focus peaking, and I'm using this button right here, as you can see, as my punch in zoom, so I can very quickly press it and then punch into whatever it is that I'm focusing on, just to make sure that it's in focus. Now when I do put the other lens on, the autofocus Fuji lens, I can just switch it from A to C2, which is my default photo mode, whilst the A is set up for this manual lens. So it literally takes a second to flick between two different modes for these two different lenses. I love this little scene here. So you've got the leading line of the road, you've got the buildings either side, you've got some nice patches of light in the middle, you've got obviously Fuji there, but then you've got the power lines framing Fuji in the middle. All I need is a subject or something of interest to go through there, and that will make for a very nice frame. Now, the reality of someone walking through, I doubt it. Also, if it's just a person, they might be lost because there's a lot of detail. So you need something bigger and brighter to catch the attention. Ideally, a taxi would be quite cool here, but beggars can't be choosers. I'll give it a couple of minutes, maybe we'll get a car. Okay, we've got a red car coming through, we've got another car there. There we go. So that's one car. So see, now there's too many cars, but maybe we can get that red car. No, I think the little K car was better. The next breakthrough was to ignore the histogram, at least for the most part. You see, when I started photography, I remember being told by YouTube experts that your histogram must be in the middle. It must look like a mountain. Nothing must be too white, too black, and God forbid something's exposed or pure black. That's blasphemy. The reality is that's just nonsense unless your entire goal is to create a technically perfect photo. If you want to make a photo that's actually interesting to look at, maybe evokes an emotion or a reaction, makes you ask questions, and certainly from a visual perspective, you look at it and go, oh wow, that looks cool. I bet that most of those photos are not properly exposed according to the histogram. They're exposed according to the subject matter, to what's going on, to what the photographer wants the viewer to see. A lot of my photos are extremely bright, and this is where I do use the histogram and expose to the right to make sure that there are more bright pixels than dark pixels. Why do I do that? Simple, because I like bright photos. Other people prefer darker photos, so they expose slightly to the left. The point being is when you're choosing the exposure level of your photo, do it based on what the photo is, what you want it to look like, and ultimately your subjective opinion of what makes a good photo. Don't base it on an analytical, mathematical interpretation of where, let's just say, the brightness of the image lies, because it'll just give you a very bland down the middle exposure. Now, in some cases, if you're doing a specific commercial job, or if you're doing a specific type of maybe portrait photography, I don't know, the technicalities come in. But for most people, they don't mean anything, to be honest.
Three influencers. Friday.
And the final breakthrough moment for me was when I realised that I don't need to shoot exclusively in manual exposure in order to think that I know what I'm doing. When I first started out, I shot exclusively in manual because I believed knowing how to use and knowing how to expose the manual made you a better photographer, and it makes you a better camera operator for sure. It makes you understand the exposure triangle, and it makes you understand, as I've mentioned in the previous video, how to get the most out of your camera. However, being able to manually expose doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to spot good lighting or good compositions or take an interesting photo entirely, right? So for me, that breakthrough moment was when I knew that if I'm shooting in, let's say, aperture priority, I'm no less of a photographer than if I'm shooting manual. I know it sounds stupid, but back then I did genuinely believe that if I wasn't using manual, I was kind of, you know, wasting my time, so to speak. Again, sounds completely stupid, but I think quite a few people think like that. Wow. That's lovely. Imagine that's his view every day. That's, I know. Yeah. Well, that was quite cool. That old guy who was sitting outside his house with the smoke. As we walked past, I just said konnichiwa, I said hello to him, and then he just got up and invited us into his garden and gave us a house tour. So that was fun. Goes to show, always say hello to the locals. Jokes aside though, I think in front of me were like 5-6 people. Everyone walked straight past him, ignored him. I think he's a bit lonely, just wanted to have a chat and whatnot. So yeah, always say hello. Well, that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it was relatable. Please leave your comments and thoughts down below as always. And I think that's about it. So now it's Lake Kawaguchiko, which is where we're finishing the day. We have a bus booked in about an hour. I have accidentally deleted the tickets and they couldn't reissue the tickets, and they just said turn up and hope for the best. So that's what we're gonna do. Either we're going back to Tokyo tonight or we're looking for a hotel room in Kawaguchiko. We'll see. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye. So those ducks there, either fighting or shagging. I'm not quite sure which one. Looks like a mix of both. It's a bit odd. Oh wow. Is that a threesome?
Yeah, that's cool.